Okay, now we are going to start a new chapter which is comparative public administration. So its name is comparative and public and administration. So comparative public administration is the first major development in the post-war evaluation of public administration. It aims at the development of more scientific public administration, building and strengthening theory in public administration. The quest for theory building in administration study with a special focus on a study of newly emerged third world countries was hallmark of Rixian studies. So for RICS, any study of public studies cannot be confined to any particular society or culture. It has to be able to study the cross-cultural behavior of administration. So cross-cultural behavior, like since the comparative public administration group itself was represented by the scholar, administrator, student, and all other intellectual, it has to be diverse and spatial. The Rixian approach to study the problem of third world country emphasis upon scientific skills to administration, moreover to seek practical applications of administrative theories were essentially looked for making administration more broad in vision of outlook. So its vision and its outlook is more broad, and therefore the RICS worked hard to refrain administrative study from getting parochial and narrow. For this to happen, the study of public administration has to be comparative. Okay, now next question. Truly, the comparative administration study are empirical, nomothetical, and ecological. So it is nomothetical, ecological. In this perspective, examine the comparative public administration. So either it is nomothetical or ecological. So comparative public administration theory cannot claim a long history. The comparative public administration has been widened and deepened by scholarly interest in the administration of third world countries. So especially after World War II. Okay, so the comparative administration is basically interested in cross cultural. So one word is cross cultural. Okay, and Frederick is the major exponent of the comparative approach to public administration, and Rick's desire CPA was to be empirical, nomothetical, and ecological, that is crudely factual and scientific, and generalized, systematic, and non-parochial. So it is factual, it is scientific, it is abstracted, generalized, systematic, and non-parochial. In the present day context, globalization and subsequent new world order have influenced the comparative public administration. Globalization, liberalization, privatization have altered the boundaries of public administration in both developed and developing country. Now it is not only developing country taking ideas from developed country, it is vice versa. So developing and developed uh, both are taking ideas. It is vice versa. So the emerging new world order demands a public administration which is far less parochial and more genuinely globalized or internationalized. The several current human problem cannot be tackled on the country by country basis but only on the global basis through an international policy making network relying on expanded international organization and much improved nation state administrative system. So it is the emerging new world order demands a public administration which is far less parochial and more genuinely globalized or internationalized. So it is several current human problem cannot be tackled on the country by country basis but only on the global basis. An international policy making network relying on expanded international organization and improve nation state administrative system. The globalization has altered the nature of public administration in both developing and developed country. Okay, and the new global administration system also proliferated a huge global bureaucracy, an extremely diversity, extensive complexity, and significant interdependency. So there is a diversity, extensive complexity, and significant interdependency. This development helped administration to think globally than parochially. So it is the to think globally, to think globally. Okay, then parochially. So the analysis of administration action cannot be carried out in isolation. It has to approach as the part of whole linking. It is historical, social, economical, political environment. As public administration is a subsystem of society, it interacts with social system, and there is vice versa influence of both. The public administration cannot operate in vacuum, but rather it is center of complex socio-economic, cultural, political phenomena, continuity interacting with them. Therefore, comparative public administration study are empirical, nomothetical, and ecological. Okay. So now, next question is, non-Western state often, if not always, have unbalanced politics, but they may not necessarily be bureaucratic politics. Discuss. So it is saying about non-Western states often, if not always, have unbalanced politics. So unbalanced politics. Politics is not balanced, but they may not necessarily be bureaucratic politics. Unbalanced but not bureaucratic. Non-Western state. It's not Western, it's non-Western. Okay. So unbalanced polity in which bureaucrats dominate the political and administrative system despite the political leaders' constitutional power. According to Rick's, Prismatic Society have unbalanced polity. As a result, the Sala official play a more dominant role in decision making. Due to such a concentration of power in the hands of bureaucratic, there would be lack of response to the people need and requirement. So according to the Ricks, the Prismatic Society have unbalanced polity. As a result, the Sala official play a more dominant role in the decision making process. Due to such a concentration of power in the hands of bureaucrats, there would be lack of response to the people needs and requirement. So response is not there because of Sala was there. So according to the Ricks, so what's Frederick Ricks saying? Ricks is Prismatic Society. It's a Prismatic Society have unbalanced polity. It's have unbalanced and polity, and as a result, the Sala official play a more dominant role in the decision making. Due to such a concentration of power in the hands of bureaucratic, there would be lack of response to the people needs and requirement. So there is a lack of response to the needs and requirement. On the basis of public administration dichotomy, the fundamental responsibility of ministry and secretary have been associated respectively with policy making and policy implementation, but at the highest level administrative system there is intermixing of duties and responsibility, ministers and secretary, which gives an opportunity to civil servant to influence the political system. Okay. So, in the process of policy making undertaken by the minister, secretary, and technical inputs and advice were for the sake of policy implementation by the secretary. It is ministry accountable, which is the norms and conversion of parliamentary system, and therefore it serves civil servant from the public criticized for their inappropriate policy. So, as compared with the secretary, minister is expected to have short-term perspective policy matters. Ministers are not aware of the technicality associated with policy or program and depends upon the input provided by the secretary. And ultimately, it is the secretary who formulate the policy, and civil servants are permanent executive, and therefore they enjoy the primacy of tenure. Ministry come and go, and therefore, in order to execute their responsibility, they have to depend upon secretariat support. But according to the Convention of Parliamentary System of Democracy, a civil servant should be neutral. Neutrality implies that a civil servant should be neutral to the political ideology, to the party in power. But the concept of neutrality for the first time was put into practice in England. Neutral bureaucracy has to maintain impartiality and anonymity. Implies that name of civil servant should not directly associated with the policy of the government. Because of the policy of the government, it is the political executive accountable to the parliament and therefore to the public at large. So the neutrality of the civil servant can't be assessed in absolute sense because it is the psychological concept. The degree of neutrality depends upon segregation of political executive and permanent executive, the involvement of the political system in the day-to-day functioning of the administrative system, the involvement of the administration in the process of policy making, and the confidence of the public in the functioning of the bureaucracy. But in the practice of factor for the neutrality of civil servant, higher order is tending to become in the terms of lower order. Similarly, that of the lower order are tending to become in the term of higher order. So in the context of development, civil servant expected to committed plans program. So neutrality of bureaucracy has its own advantage, and sometimes committed bureaucracy has also considered to be imperative in order to fulfill the developmental goals in a desired matter. Okay, so in order to bring balance between the neutrality of bureaucracy and the committed bureaucracy, it has been prescribed that bureaucracy should be committed to the policy politics but should remain neutral in the party politics. But in the practice, it is difficult to segregate the policy politics and party politics, because once bureaucracy is committed to the policy politics, it ultimately implies the commitment to the party politics. So according to the modern scholar, bureaucracy, depending upon the degree of impact of politics, it's fully depoliticized bureaucracy, semi-politicized bureaucracy, committed bureaucracy, fully depoliticized bureaucracy. So it can be fully depoliticized, semi-politicized, committed bureaucracy, and fully depoliticized bureaucracy. The existence of neutral bureaucracy is based on fundamental principle, that is parliamentary system of democracy. First is parliamentary system, merit system, prevalence of the two multi-party system, importance of dominance of generalist and balanced polities. To conclude that bureaucracy may adhere to the principle of neutrality and anonymity for the effects of functioning of democracy, bureaucracy needs to be committed to policy, not to the party politics. Okay. Next is prismatic model. Prismatic model of risks is equally applicable to the developing as well as developed society. So the FW risks, okay, F risks is developed the fused prismatic diffracted model which applicable to the underdeveloped, developing and developed society. According to the risks, development is autonomy of social system made possible by the rising level of diffraction. This model was based on ecological approach. So Ricks considered various characteristics of prismatic society like heterogeneity, formalism, overlapping, and polyfunctionism. According to him, all these characteristics are present in the case of developing country, but this model failed to distinguish between the developed and developing countries. So some of the above characters are still present in the developed country also. So he proposed another model in his book Prismatic Society Revisited. In this he gave two-dimensional model. He added integration as another component, diffraction. So what he added? Integration and diffraction. Okay. And basic diffracted, like now diffraction was equally to differentiation plus integration, and he further subdivided the two basic diffracted and prismatic society into finer types on basis of degree of integration as eo-diffracted, ortho-diffracted, and neo-diffracted, and co-prismatic, ortho-prismatic, neo-prismatic. By this approach, Ricks claimed that prismatic condition needs not be confined to the undeveloped country only, but may occur in society at any level of differentiation, including house and developed nation. So thus Ricksian prismatic model with incorporation of integration, second dimension matter is equally applicable to the developed country. So this was all about Ricks. Now we are going to discuss about the development dynamics. What do you think about the development dynamics or development administration is staff for theories which guide the pulling of empirical knowledge, orient new research, and recommend administrative policy. Explain. So it is for theories, for research, and for administrative policies. It is talking about the question like this. So the development administration calls for some revolutionary change, attitude, behavior, orientation, and outlook of public service at all level of administration. Development administration is staff of theories which gives to guide the pulling of empirical knowledge, orient new research, and recommend administration policy. The attitude of development administration positive rather than negative, persuasive rather than restrictive or authoritative. It encourages the innovation, change which is needed to accomplish development tasks. The characteristics of development administration may be identified by its change in orientation, result orientation, commitment, client orientation, and temporal dimension. So depersonalization of office is greatly dysfunction to the emerging concept of the human relation and orientated administration and harmful to the interest of the developing nation. The concept of impersonality may bring a rigid rule and approach which is very opposite for commitment, now regarded as essential prerequisite for development administration. So it is impersonality. Okay, so rigid rule oriented approach which is very opposite to commitment. So rigid application of the strict division of labor may leads to red tapeism, shrinking of responsibility and delay in program. So there can be red tapeism, responsibility will be shrink, delay in program and implementation. So what is required is flexible approach. Okay. So now next question, do you agree with the view that what development administration in recent year lost its impetus without making any significant intellectual breakthrough? Discuss. So development administration is recently lost its impetus. What do you think about this? See, development administration has the responsibility of changing developing society into the developed one. So it is gives the responsibility of enhancing the living standard of poor, and the significance of development administration is so high that has become a separate discipline and separate field of inquiry. For any discipline, two things are important. Firstly, it should have a sound base, like it should have a sound base in theory and intellectual innovation, and second, it should have well defined field of inquiry with such roots in principle that can validate it empirically. So we required first of all base, and second we require innovation, and second day it should have well defined field of inquiry which has roots in principle that can be validated empirically. So the development administration was started with the bang at a time when a huge number of country government got their independence from colonial rule. So this country did not have any well established administrative setup, were highly underdeveloped, and development administration gave them a hope to counter their miseries, which were the result of immense exploitation by colonial ruler. So till that time of development administration was taught to be only answer to their problems, and but as the era of globalization arrived, the technology advance was heavily. All these change were thought to rapidify the progress of development, but there was another thing that was ignored. So although newer means of development have been discovered by using the new technology, but at the front of intellectual growth and development administration suffered tremendously. There was no research, or virtually very less research, on improving the very foundation of development administration embedded in intellectual finding and innovation. So all this has resulted in weakening of development at its base, which seems to be stagnated in recent past. When the development administration emerged as a field of inquiry within the public administration, many models and theory were propounded, but now the momentum seems to be lost, and development administration itself was not able to develop, or in other words, development of the development administration has been halted due to indifference shown by the scholar of the field. So that's why it is said that the development administration will disappear at the same rapid pace with which is emerged. So development administration has helped many countries all over the world to stand on their feet and developed rapidly. It has transformed many developing countries into the developed one. But when question arise about its own development, we have no answer. This is high time now to motivate young researcher for innovation in this field. In this way, we will not only be saving the securing fast development of our country and society, but also we will be saving a beautiful subject or discipline from extinction. So yes, I agree that development administration in recent year has lost the impetus without making any significant intellectual breakthrough, which is not a good news for everyone, whether he is a public administration or citizen, at a student or anyone else who is affected by public administration in any form. Okay, now next question is people participation. People participation is a crucial to development administration. So see, the development administrations aims upon the development of all sections of society in general and weaker section in particular. The people participation play an important role, and the essence of development administration is to bring about change through integrated, organized and properly directed government. So in the recent past, government is most of the developing nation have shifted their focus on development by means of plan change and people participation. So there is a change and there is a participation. So furthermore, the growing welfare function of the government have brought into limelight the limitation of the traditional theory. So the people enjoy central place in the functioning of development administration. So to make the functioning of the development smoother, it's necessary again people participation and about many advantages. So it occurs to rise increase in transparency as become more open to public. It help in making administration more accountable, responsible towards people for all its action and decision. The people participation help in enhancement of credibility, acceptability of development and program. The people participation help in eradicating the corruption from the administration. It make administration more flexible, result oriented. Now the emphasis is placed more on values rather than facts. So the people participation holds the key for success of development administration, and development administration sets before the goal. So what are that key points? Transparency, openness, accountable, responsiveness, help in enhancement, credibility, acceptability, participation, help eradicating corruption, and administration more flexible, result oriented, and value should be there rather than facts. So it is the achieving the modernization, industrialization, self-reliance, social justice, economic growth. A different kind of a development administration has thought which could fulfill their demands. Okay. Next is certain discourses. There is a reflected basic distrust against bureaucracy as an instrument of development. Do you think bureaucracy is more appropriate for regulatory administration than for development administration? In the changing profile of development administration in a liberalized environment, what role of bureaucracy be envisages? So it is accepted that post-colonial developing world would be experiencing a long period of bureaucracy-led development. Okay, and the complex activity connected with development become a responsibility of the government. Okay, so although the vital role of the public sector bringing about the rapid socio-economic change is generally acknowledged, there are many misgivings about the role of bureaucracy in development administration. Bureaucracy has often been characterized as a soulless, inflexible machine which seem to be unsuited to the dynamic needs of the social transformation. It is always associated with the rigidity, never-ending rules and regulation. So most of time bureaucracy is also criticized for urban oriented and elitist in nature and unrelated to the needs of rural area. And most of people of developing country, the bureaucracy has also been criticized for not demonstrating through commitment to development needs and program. While development call for full throated support, bureaucracy has generally taken shelter under conservative neutrality. And development administration has pointed out earlier is essentially change oriented. It has to be flexible and adaptable to meet quickly changing circumstances. Decision making has to be situational, innovative, and creative. And scope of operation is very wide. So, bureaucracy is based on defined rules, impersonality, hierarchy, rationality, specificity, which makes it functions rigid. But development administration require flexibility. Not only the concept of development administration, but bureaucracy was adopted by colonial ruler for maintaining law and order. So after World War II, many countries got independence and concept of development administration came to limelight. That time people thought bureaucracy as a means of regulatory work only, but that is not true. The bureaucracy was found both efficient and effective in crisis management. In time of implementation and program, the role of bureaucracy is satisfactory and result oriented and people oriented. So bureaucracy at any rate is considerable segment of administration on inescapable obligation to inculcate a disposition toward work is a field more especially in the rural area among is the vulnerable section of the population. So bureaucracy's role is required in both regulatory and development, and they should be working with anonymous neutrality which help implement program efficiently. Administration task responsibility not shrink, and correct view that role of state would change and steering to roving. Now public administration role is facilitator and troubleshooter. So now they have to acquire new skill knowledge in the liberalized world. Bureaucracy has to be more proactive and they have to cope up with new challenges. And bureaucracy is not only involved in program implementation but participation and private sector are also involved. Therefore, it should act not only only at a facilitator. So next question is, which of the model development administration is characterized by the selectivism? selectivism, attainment, and polyfunctionalism. It's attainment and polyfunctionalism. Polyfunctionalism. So describe the corresponding extension, roots, and attribute. What are the roots and what are the attribute? Okay. So Rix is the first thinker who attempted to study the administrative system of developing country. In this regard, he developed certain models like agraria, transitia, industria, and fused and prismatic diffracted. So what Rix described about first was agraria, and second was industria, and third was fused and prismatic and diffracted model. Okay, so the limitation of agraria transitia model forced him constructed FPD. What is FPD? Is fused and prismatic and diffracted. Fused, prismatic, diffracted is based on a structural and functional approach. So it is also called the structural and functional approach. Okay, and fused, prismatic, diffracted society correspond to agrarian society, developing and developed country. So fused society is one in which a single structure perform all function. So single structure and all function. This is the fused society. Okay, as structure is multifunctional in nature, these society are structurally undifferentiated. So it is undifferentiated. Okay. Now, exercise of authority depends upon age-old tradition, custom, social norms, and precedents. Ascriptive value play a dominant role in the society, and thereby administration system in this society strive to protect the special interest of particular section. A diffracted society is one where every function has been corresponding structure, and there is high degree of specialization. So it is a diffracted. Like second model is what? It's a diffracted structure. Diffracted structure and is a high degree of specialization, and structures carries the specialized function. Diffracted society based on universalism principle instead of ascriptive. So first that was the ascriptive ascriptive principle was in the fused society, and here is the specialized principle diffracted. And values, achievement, values take in society. Exercise of authority depends upon the prescribed rules and regulation, and Zix attempted to describe various society by using multifunctionality of social structure. He pointed out between these two comes fused and diffracted there exists larger number of society called the prismatic. Okay, so prismatic society share value pattern of both fused and diffracted, and prismatic society have achieved creation level of differentiation, specialization, and necessary for dealing with modern technology, but he failed to integrate them. So institute of prismatic society are legal, rational in form, but traditional in fact. Prismatic society have three important characteristic features: heterogeneity, formalism, and overlapping. So what are the problems in the prismatic? That is the features: heterogeneity, formalism, and overlapping. So heterogeneity, the exercise of high degree of heterogeneity is the main characteristic of prismatic society. Heterogeneity implies the simultaneous presence of different kind of system, use, and practice. Modern structure and practice coexist alongside traditional one in uneasy companionship. So they are urban area with high degree of structural differentiation and sophisticated intellectual class. On the contrary, less developed rural area with traditional values. Heterogeneity has great impact on the administrative system in prismatic society. In the Sala prismatic society, they exist along with modern bureaucracy and court, and on the other hand, in the rural area, village had plays all the roles: economic, political, administration, religion, and social himself. So heterogeneity contribute to both formalism and overlapping. So heterogeneity has a great impact on the administrative system, and in the Sala prismatic, they exist along with the modern bureaucracy and in the rural area. So formalism, like heterogeneity, is the existence of high degree of heterogeneity is the main characteristic prismatic. Heterogeneity implies simultaneous presence of different kind of system. So views and practices. Okay, and practices coexist alongside traditional one and uneasy companionship. Okay, so now formalism refers to the extent to which discrepancy exists between the perspective and descriptive, between formed and effective power. So it is the discrepancy exists between the perspective and descriptive, informed the effective power, the gap between the stated objective and real performance, and the greater the discrepancy between the formal and actual, the more the formalism in the system. So formalism many significantly affects the quality of administration and behavior. Merit system may be the legal method of for recruiting the bureaucrats, but actual appointment may be made basis of non-merit considerations such as caste, family, friends. Thus administration is prismatic society allow non-administrative criteria to influence their administrative action. So formalism is the essence of theory of prismatic society, and formalism gives rise to administrative evils such as red tape, corruption, and inefficiency. So how much discrepancy in the organization and exists between the perspective and descriptive between the formed and effective power, that is the formalism. Overlapping refer to the extent to which formally differentiated structure of diffracted society coexist with undifracted structure of fused society. So in prismatic society, modern as well as old and traditional structures carry on function, but in reality the functioning and behavior of the modern structure like government, office, parliament greatly influenced by old and the traditional structures such as family, caste. In the prismatic society, administration structure interfere in functioning of administration structure overlapping. In the prismatic society have different dimension: nepotism, polycommunalism, bazaar canteen model, and polynormatism. So Rick's model have a special significance to explain the nature and working of administration system, is prevalent in developing country and has considered to be turning point in the process of study system of developing country. Okay, so this was all about the today topic. Now self-help group women to realize their full potential in some sphere. Self-help group providing avenue of political mobilization. Political and mobilization. So examine the self-help group for the development. How like potential of self-help group. So self-help group is referred to voluntary. First of all, who are they? See, they are a voluntary association, okay, and the group of people attaining the common goal. The common goal can be like the credit needs, saving, or it is can be marketing products, or it can be making arrangement of the water for group. Therefore self-help group informal grouping. They are informal and women self-help group attempt in the direction of women empowerment. The group can constitute either of all women or all men, or it can be mixture of both. Okay, so self-help group transforming like poverty elevation, women empowerment, women education, and there's a two type of power in this world. So manpower and money power. So the power of poor lies with the hand. They becomes powerful when they manage organize themselves, become one of the ways. So self-help group has not only increased their social prestige but also created a spirit of collectivism. So self-help group has provided opportunity for rural women, and therefore it has generalized character of self-confidence and self-dependence. So has not only educated thousands and lakh of women but also helped women to become economically empowered, and they have raised their social prestige and platform to raise their voice collectively against any kind of exploitation and name of customs and age-old tradition. In the process of decision making, treated as an important part of participant, but with the help of women, they are not only participating in process of decision but deciding the welfare of program. So they are provided women self-employment and therefore prosperity, life and their family. It has helped in increase their prestige. With the self-help group, women have become aware about the schemes, and it proved to helpful to check the corruption, red tape, and government organization. So it made possible the all-round development of women, support environment, and generated kind of team spirit. So they are founded by government and also supported by various political parties. Self-help group political party creates support, and they are owned by political party in process of election campaign, play important role, and manifest with the self-help group influence the public at large. So there are several provision scheme made by the government as well as spread awareness among the people, but due to red tape, corruption, lack of awareness, it does not reach the needy people. The party in opposition helps them, so actually for them take the credit which generates political support. At large, pre-existing group are available in India. All self-help group member are already familiar with the group dynamics and large potential which are yet to be exposed. So the women group take more time in initial formation, But socio-cultural background, once such group are formed, they are more stable and effective, and which are more near to the urban areas, like take lesser time to stabilize as compared with those group which are functional in remote areas. So for the smooth functioning, self-reliance, transparency is essential, and therefore outside dependency has not been considered for growth and success. The provision of the grant provision the promote adversely affect working. The quality of leadership is one of the more essential feature, and therefore the selection of leadership should be done in best possible manner. Should be rotation of the leadership among the membership of groups so to ensure the great participation providing the leadership. And our success is depends upon the operation guideline, law and bylaws and proper implementation. On the basis of experiences, it's become the evidence that the loan by the group initially is more for consumption needs of requirement, and the group matures such loans are more for production purpose, and therefore the effort should be met. Then since formalism self-help group, there should be proper balance between the consumption loans and proactive loans. So banks should more involve in the microcredit by minimizing the legal formalities. The experiences show indirectly transaction cost and the repayment is quite encouraging, and another system better promoted with the help of desired initiative financial institution, and the proper balance should be saving credit linkage so that maximum advantage can be secured. To sum up, is attempt to strengthen the democracy needs to be created so rural development become empowered, and the role of relevance context of developing been emphasized perspective beneficiary group. Okay, so now this was the whole what we discussed. Now the next question is the concept of development is multidimensional and ever expanding. Okay, so the theme of development is the old age human history. However, in recent time the idea of development was born in post second war after the emergence of third world. So quite a few decades of development have elapsed since early when idea of development first broached. The high hopes speedy amelioration of condition of the third world have however remained unrealized. What is more distressing is that development has been oriented more toward the production of material goods, more well having that more well-being of large masses and socially marginalized. A country's successful development is contingent on several factors like its history, economy, politics, culture, geography, social psychology, resources, level of skill and technology. The development practice over this long year have convincingly brought out and the fact that development needs to be reconceived essentially in human term and not material term. So a world development report, the principal goals of development policy is to create sustainable improvement in the quality of life, and while raising per capita income, consumption is part of the goal. Another object like eradicating poverty, expanding health, increasing educational level and meeting their goals require the comprehensive expanding approach. So now next question is the market has become the new icon of developmentalism. Market, so see, it is the said market stimulate economic development, and economic development is inconsistent with the sustainable development. The link between market and development tends to be one noted about markets stimulate entrepreneurship and building up capital, and has emphasized is on building up of wrong kinds of capital like man-made capital. So there is indeed some evidence that suggests the more liberalized our market, the greater is economic development. So the argument tends to be about differences in the rate of development, not about development and no development at all. But modern economic development theory denies that expansion of man-made capital is the engine of economic development. Rather, it is embodiment is capital of technological change, development of human social capital. If freer market are also associated with the economic development, then there may be some significant link between the market liberalization and development of human and social capital and embodied technological change. So if their linkage are correct, it would suggest that one cannot abandon development without reducing the human capital, and social capital and technological change. Yet the very ingredient of capital stock required sustainable development. Moreover, the first two at least are also seen as end in themselves by many development thinkers. The sacrifice of economic development might therefore be achieved of these socially desirable ends and means of social development. So now what are the next question? That is, neither Edward Widner nor Fredericks was able to describe the process of development. So first was the Edward and Widner and Fredericks. Okay, so both are like not able to describe the development, explain the drawback and weakness of their theoretical analysis. So the term development administration can be used in the broad sense to embrace the variety of approaches and point of view that mark the study in developing countries. Some writers have sought to assign a more restricted and precise meaning, but their attempt has been arbitrary and conflicting. Some speak of development administration in order to emphasize on inadequacy of establishment of discipline of public administration. Others treat the field merely an application of traditional study. Another use the term neither connotation. Some use term sense of administration of development. Other thinking of the development as a administration. Still others see the concept as two sides are same coin. Another important school of thoughts which study role problem of administration in developing country calls it field of comparative public administration. Widner defined administrative tradition in terms of the process of guiding organization towards the achievement of progressive political, social, economic objective that authoritatively determine manner of another. The key to this approach and its major analytical problem, Widner himself recognized it is the existence of national goal which may be regarded as authoritative determined. Nonetheless, this approach distinguishes development administration from the law and order administration characterized of colonial regime, which is often the historical to development administration in a special country and in easily identified as less interested in change and more interested in maintenance of the status quo. So in the present context, however, the challenges are many and varied and interconnected in the developed country. On the other hand, both Widner and Rick's theory based on development experiences and milieu of developing country. The main challenge in developing country: shortage of skills, tools, difficulties in organizational structure, political difficulty, and cultural and attitudinal barrier. So it should be curtained for the development. So this was all about today comparative public administration and the development dynamics.